The woman, turning to Sarah, says that she herself knows that Ethan Ambrosia is this damned duke who is not the father of the child. A pregnant woman says that every time the baby kicks, she thinks about Weigel, and this is simply unbearable for her. The concerned lady says that if Kviegel became a duke, it would be very wonderful. The lady says that she will soon go to him and will never return to the Cromwell Empire. A pregnant woman asks to tell the child that she died and let him quickly forget about his dead mother, and therefore he will definitely live a happy life. The maids have gathered near the doors and hear screams outside the doors about how she is not his mother. The maids beg that Monsieur Claude, the heir of Duke Claude, open the door for them because they are very worried about him. The women say that he had never been capricious before, but now he even locked the door. In the room, screams are again heard that she is not his mother, and the boy is in tears and says that he finished her off. The maids can't open the door and calm the boy down by saying that this is not at all what he says. The women think that Machen Blon has spoken nonsense to Monsieur Claude again. After all, this is immediately understandable, since the boy had never behaved like this before. The maids think that she must have told him that someone will soon come to replace the boy's mother. Mr. Claude can't calm down, and he screams that they all hate them and let them all leave. A little boy cries and screams that he doesn't need anyone except his mother, and he doesn't even want to see the nanny. Sarah Millen was considered a role model for ladies in the Cromwell Empire. Even the emperor himself bowed his head in front of this girl, asking her to teach the princess. By law, unmarried women do not have the right to inherit the title and property of the family, but the emperor promised to give her the right to inherit independence from her marital status. And so, Sarah actually became Countess Millen. The maids, seeing Sarah, asked her to help them since they could not calm the boy down. The young lady thinks that in the original Claude was not so capricious, and she herself does not understand what exactly has changed. The girl, remembering the book and some torn-out pages, realizes that the novel has been changed. Claude Ambrosia, his mother died as soon as he was born, and because of this, the young master suffered greatly. Later, Claude's suffering grew into darkness within him, which was then destroyed by the Empire. It is this boy who is the main character of the novel called Flower of Darkness. Such a fate was destined for the boy who is now crying in his room behind a locked door. And this curse passed from generation to generation in the family of Ambrosia. But when it swallowed him up, he met the main character. And then the story of his rescue began, where Ellen of Fliston. Claude, from the moment they met, was constantly engaged in self-flagellation and suffered from nightmares. And in the end, I lost my mind. And then he killed his father with his own hands. Claude had to suffer in order to finally get a brilliant ending to his story. To realize her perverted ideas, she doomed him to a life of darkness. Millen knows about the plot of the novel Flower of Darkness, and so she came to Mr. Claude's house to change it. The young girl thinks that although she is confused because this is quite normal, Claude has not yet completely despaired, but she did not think that the plot that had so disappointed her would begin to develop in this way. Sarah, this child's nanny, will give him a lot of affection and love for which he is so hungry, and this is the kind of childhood the main character Claude will have. After all, that's why the young lady came there, expecting a boy full of love to rush into her arms, and she didn't even think that she would come in the midst of hysterics. Sarah says that it seems to her that Mr. Ambrosia is not ready yet, and the girl thinks about whether she should return to her place or come tomorrow. Suddenly the maid turns to Lady Mylene and says that she is very ashamed to ask her for help. After all, the young master is usually not so capricious, and he was probably just nervous. However, he doesn't want to see her. Sarah questions whether she should still take action. The maid says that they still don't know how to address her as Lady Millen or just Miss Millen. The maids, turning to Mrs. May, tell her not to forget that the Duke allowed her to live here only for the sake of Claude's dignity. Confident May answers because she thought that they couldn't do anything since Claude listens only to her. The young girl, turning to the nanny, tells her to leave it to her because it will save her from this headache. One of the maids, turning to May, screams about how she dares to be rude to Millen since the Duke himself invited the Countess. The maids ask if the Countess is going to take Claude out of the room because they want to see if she can do it. The boy does not let anyone near him, and in the eyes of the maids it looks very funny. And Sarah says that the Emperor himself allowed her to inherit the title, and she did not think that anyone in the Grand Duchy of Ambrosia did not know this. The girl May, turning to the lady, asks that she doesn't know the law prohibiting unmarried ladies from inheriting the title. The Duchess replies that if something does not suit her about this, then she can express her complaints to His Majesty. The surprised girl asks what she is talking about, and Sarah tells her to go to the Emperor and expressed that his decision to allow her to inherit the Count's title was unfair. Mei Chenblon is a simpleton who is only strong in front of the weak. The girl, turning to little Claude, says that no one loves him because he killed his own mother without even taking his first breath, and he will even kill his nanny Sarah. However, a minor character doomed Claude to suffering. Confident Sarah says that she will teach her a little lesson and let her repeat after her Miss May, Mrs. Countess Millen. The young girl suddenly repeated her words after the Countess and was surprised at herself. Sarah, continuing the conversation, says that she is grateful for Miss May's work and let her understand all the circumstances. And from now on, young Mr. Ambrosia is under the Countess's wing. The lady claims that she was surprised by Claude's unexpected refusal to accept her, and this situation brought the woman to her senses. Because this world exists according to the laws of the plot of the Flower of Darkness, and therefore what is happening is very strange. But even if something has changed now, Sarah swears on her soul that she will do everything possible to make her friend's child happy. However, her promise did not change. Now the lady has only one thought in her head: how to protect the child, who is traumatized by the thought that it was he who killed the mother. Entering the room, Sarah asks the young master if she can come see him for a while. The upset boy says let her go away because he doesn't want to see anyone. The lady says that she thinks that he allowed her to come in and that is why she will do so. Sarah Millen, who dies in the original novel, is different from her, and therefore if they are now standing next to the door, she advises them to move away from it for a while. Using magic, the woman opened the door. She says that even if Claude refuses her, she will still act, because she's a sorceress. Wizards are very rare, not only in Cromwell's empire, but throughout the continent. Mages are people who usually seclude themselves in magic towers and do not show themselves to the world. They are also distinguished by their eccentric minds on the verge of madness. Since magic is not an ordinary phenomenon, the lands where wizards live always flourish. But even if the emperor of any country on the continent wishes to meet with the magician, no one will be able to tell the location of the tower in which the magician lives. In any country, a wizard is treated as if he were a member of the imperial family and as a noble person. Hearing all this, the maids are surprised because they did not know that Countess Millen is a sorceress. Sarah says that she, of course, guessed that this would happen, but when she saw the adorable boy, she says that he was like an angel, and she can't even believe that he will become a villain who will destroy the empire. Entering the boy's room, the woman greets the young master and says that her name is Sarah Millen, and from today she will be his mentor and nanny. Looking at the little boy, the woman thinks that he is very similar to her friend Dylan. At night, Sarah had a dream that she needed to return, and because she found herself in this body in another world, and yet she wondered why she could not wake up. However, the sorceress had a secret that she could not share with anyone, because she needs to change the plot of the novel, but there is no time left. The woman thinks that a mistake has occurred because she has never before had problems returning to her body in that world, and it is even stronger than the fact that she is a sorceress. Sarah was born with incredibly powerful magical abilities, and her soul could not cope with such power, so she divided her soul into two parts, each of which lived in its own world. In the Cromwell Empire, she was a countess, but in the Republic of Korea, Sarah woke up in the body of an ordinary girl named Park Hae-yeon. The girl had no problem switching between the halves of her soul, and even if she spent a long time in one world, only one day passed in the other world. Thus, the sorceress could live twice as long as an ordinary person, and she was good at maintaining a balance between her two lives. You are different from Sarah, who has strong magic in the body of Park Hae-young. Na had the gift of foresight and could see the future. Once Park Hae-young saw the future that awaited Sarah Millen, she lived a calm, ordinary life. The sorceress thinks that she must go back and rewrite the novel because she cannot allow Dylan to go crazy. The girl thinks about where she could have made a mistake. However, if the other thing is dead, she will not be able to return to that world. When Park Hae-young's body met with an accident, she felt her soul tremble. But still, she still felt that the two souls were connected like a strong rope that could not be broken. At night, a voice informs the lady that a visitor has come to her. The girl replies that she will not receive anyone at such a late hour. Opening the door, Sarah saw her close friend Duchess Dylan Ambrosia looking at her and asking whether she was on her side. The Duchess says that Sarah is her closest friend since she told her that she would do anything for her, and that's why she asks her for help. The surprised Millen says the Duchess, but suddenly the woman screams so that she doesn't call her that. Sarah asks Dylan for forgiveness because she made a mistake. The woman says that she kept her promise to the Duke, but now she is going to find Fiegel, And even if he abandons her and the child Kvigel, Dylan claims that she will have nothing else left, because the duchy needed an heir and she would soon give birth to him, and only after that could she leave. Sarah asks the woman whether she is trying to pass off her and Kvigel's child as Eden's child. Dylan replies that she will succeed if she gives him the child and never returns. However, she even agrees to this. The woman says that if only Kvigel had become a duke, she would not have to do this, and may Eden Ambrosius be cursed. However, if he finds out about all this after her death, then the father will not be able to do anything. The woman agreed that the end had come for her. After the girl married the older brother of her loved one, her only friend went crazy. Her misfortune may not even have overtaken her, and the woman in tears asks if she can take care of the child. Dylan claims that her friend can stop the curse that will come to this child, and yet she asks to do this because she cannot leave with peace of mind. Sarah thinks about how all these events will not result from her mistakes. The sorceress wrote the novel on her own whim because the future she predicted was hopeless, and it was she who made her life like this. Sarah wonders if her friend can forgive her. This is the end of the story. A man who seemed to have experienced all the sorrows of this world was saved with a woman who seemed to have accumulated in herself all the happiness of the world. Even in such a desperate situation, they did not ask for anyone's magical help. Only thanks to their faith and love, like the most ordinary people, they could save with a wise decision a world that was in chaos and destruction. This is the plot of a novel that Sarah wrote. While reading it out loud, she asks her friend if it was interesting and if she liked it. The girl enthusiastically replies that she, of course, doesn't understand much about this, but is sure that Sarah is a great writer of novels. The writer was a little embarrassed and said that this was just her hobby, and there was nothing special in this novel anyway. Dylan claims there is nothing she can't do. Young's visions were hard to believe even though she saw him with her own eyes. This beautiful empire faces a terrible future. And in the future, she and the same wizards and their students hid their powers and went into solitude, closing your eyes to the chaos going on in the empire. But even in this vision, the girl could not find out why the wizards left the empire. Without knowing this reason, the sorceress will find it difficult to make decisions that can change everything. By writing the book Flower of Darkness in this way, the girl tried to console herself after introducing a terrible future and therefore began to seem to her that the future is just a made-up story. The girl, turning to her friend, asks her whether there will be a tragic love story in this novel, and so that love is destined by fate itself. Tough love that neither family, nor duty, nor children can stop. The young lady claims to talk about love that continues to bloom even when the heroes are in trouble. She asks whether there is anything more romantic than heroes with such tragic love. The writer replies that if she reads the novel, she will no longer think like that. And the girl asks again if she has such characters in her novel and what the names of these lucky ones are. Sarah replies that she hasn't decided yet, and then her friend suggests that she name the heroine after her. Dylan says that she should still, out of convenience, marry the future Duke Ambrosius, and suggests that at least in the novel she would have such a wonderful love. The girl asks the writer that when she finishes the book, can he give her something to read? However, just like Dylan from the novel, she fell in love not with Duke Ambrosius, whom she married for convenience, but with his younger brother Kvigel. Sarah's friend gave birth to a baby she shouldn't have had. Since the future will develop like the plot of her novel Flower of Darkness, then this child, Claude Ambrosia, is the main character of the novel. If the writer knew that this would be the beginning of a tragedy, she would never have given names to the heroes of this novel. Dylan asks her friend if she can save her child from the curse that is about to pass on to him. Since she cannot change the plot of the novel in any way, Sarah must rewrite it again, even if then this whole world will disappear. The girl calms her friend down and tells her that she will find a nanny who will free her from the curse that passes from generation to generation in the Ambrosius family. And from now on, a thorny path through the Flower of Darkness awaits her. Sarah hugs her friend and says that she will look after her child and do everything to destroy these thorns. The Duchess, being in the young master's room addressing him, says that he is even nicer than she thought. Taking the boy by the hand, the nanny turns to him and says that it's very good because they had a good first meeting. The little boy, blushing with anger, screams for May to drive this woman away. The girl says that the Countess probably got the job as a nanny because of her strength, because the Emperor and the Duke knew about it that Sarah Miller was a sorceress. He saw the worried servant and asked if the Duke had come. Since it seems to her that Claude does not want to catch his father's eye, however, he himself understands that he did something wrong. The girl understands that the boy wants his father to love him, and for her this means that she is not late. And she still has hope. The Duchess, addressing the boy, suggests that she will put him in order before returning to the Duke, but she will do this only on one condition, that Claude accepts her as his nanny. Walking along the corridor, the Duke orders the servants to get out of the way because he needs to see Claude. One of the maids says that the young master has an important meeting. Claude, hearing that his father is coming, quickly agrees with the woman to put him in order before his father hates him even more. The nanny asks why the Duke would hate such a handsome young man like him. When the Duke entered the room, Sarah said that she had never met such handsome men in any of her lives, because the girl can't take her eyes off his face. The sorceress thought about why her friend did not fall in love with Duke Ambrosius. The man introduced himself, said his name Eden, and asked the girl for forgiveness because he was delayed and did not meet her. The girl said her name and said that everything was in order, but she did not pay attention to such an omission at all, thanks to Monsieur Claude, who received her very warmly. The Duke asks if it was possible that Claude was being rude towards her. The girl replies that the young master was an exemplary boy, and in the future they will have a lot of fun together. Hearing this, Eden happily says that he is glad to hear about it, and he sat down next to the boy and praised him. The Duke, addressing the child, states that he is the heir of the Ambrosia family, and from now on must always be very polite. After hearing the words, the boy's eyes sparkled, and when the nanny saw him, she said that it seemed to her that Claude was happy about his father's praise. The sorceress thinks that Duke Ambrosia, although he is not Claude's own father, they are very similar. Eden is renowned for his excellent management skills and gentle nature, because even the emperor treats him with respect. However, under the authority of the girl, it was not Claude who destroyed the empire, but this man. Duke Ambrosia has always been kind to everyone, but this means that no one will ever be a special person to him, and he will not be able to love anyone. And this is where the whole curse lies. Duke Eden Ambrosia is cursed, and his curse is that he cannot give his heart to anyone. Dylan says that Kveigel told her the same thing. No matter how hard he tried, he still could not win a single piece of his brother's heart. Sarah thinks about what else her friend might know. However, now, when she sees him in front of her, the Duke does not seem like such a person to her at all. The sorceress is thinking about whether there is another secret in the Duchy of Ambrosia. The girl asks whether she knew about the force that would destroy this empire. Eden, looking at the Countess, asks her that she couldn't open the door and therefore pulled it out. The Duke says that his knights reported to him about the use of magic in the mansion, and after this report, he hurried there as fast as he could. However, the gentleman saw part of the door fly off with a loud noise, breaking the window. Now Sarah understands why the Duke was in such a hurry. However, the girl kept her power under control, and he was very lucky that he had such a spacious garden because no one was hurt. Yadan says with a smile on his face that the girl probably had another reason. Listening to all this, the young master thinks that she will really get away with everything like that, and if he did this, then Dad would have already punished him. Claude noticed that all of Dad's attention was already directed to the nanny. After all, he also looks at this girl with interest. And I even noticed that they have the same hair color. But after learning about his mother's story, the young master thinks that he is left completely alone in this world, and that's why he shouldn't have that hair color. The boy thinks that his dad came running because he was worried about him, and since he is so disheveled, he doesn't seem so scary. Coming closer to Dad, the young master touched the Duke, and he pulled his hand away from Claude. Seeing all this, the nanny took the boy in her arms and gave him to the Duke. The Duke held the boy as if for the first time, and Sarah realized that it was awkward for the gentleman to hold the child in his arms, and she suggested that the gentleman put his hand correctly under his son. And meanwhile, Claude will grab him by the neck. Looking at the guys, the young lady thinks that it will be more convenient this way, and this is not the limit. Eden Ambrosia. Having accepted the ducal title, he gained the trust of the emperor and aristocrats. Only he alone knows how sophisticated his mind is. The writer is sure that from the moment she wrote The Flower of Darkness, its future also began to change little by little, because the Lord could defend the duchy alone without the help of family and children. However, he had a family. The sorceress thinks that perhaps this is the key to how to change the Flower of Darkness and the future. However, people cannot change at the snap of a finger, due to the fact that Sarah did not describe the dark sides of the Duke in the novel, and therefore she does not know about them. But they definitely must exist in reality. The nanny, who received Claude back in her arms, asks the Duke in surprise that he had never hugged the boy before. Eden says that he is ashamed to admit this because it is true. The nanny says that she was even more ashamed that the two of them were so awkward together, and she claims that before she begins training the young master, she needs to do something. Sarah thinks that she can't let things continue like this between them, and if the girl had not found the Duke leading her to hug her son, he would have left without doing so. In order for Claude not to remain a villain as in the novel, there needs to be less negative emotions in his life. The young lady, turning to the Duke, gives him an envelope and suggests that before she becomes Claude's nanny, he must promise her something. Eden opened the letter and reads that the first paragraph says that Claude's entire education will be entrusted to a nanny. The second paragraph states that Duke Ambrosia must provide everything necessary for the implementation of the learning process and cooperate, but not interfere excessively. The third point states that the Duke must completely trust Sarah Millen. After reading all these requirements, the gentleman says that he trusts the Countess to prepare everything she might need. Holding the boy in her arms, the nanny turns to Eden Ambrosia and says that she doesn't need him either. The Duke, looking at the girl, asks her what she means by this. The nanny claims that she needs the father to also devote his time to his son. The aristocrat replies that he is sorry to talk about this, but since the emperor announced his abdication from the throne, things have become restless in high society. After all, that's why he doesn't have the opportunity to devote much of his time. Sarah looks at the handsome guy and claims that she is asking for 3 hours a week. Eden thought that he was lucky because the Countess agreed to become a nanny. However, it seems to him that this will become a new headache. Emperor Carlos de Cromwell turned 80 this year because he held the throne longer than any previous emperor and gained greater power. However, the emperor did not appoint any of the 3 princes as his heir. The high society has already split into 3 factions that have begun to fight for the throne. Eden is the only one who does not take either side and maintains balance. However, this will soon come to an end. The Duke claims that he has no time for a personal life, but the boy definitely needs a nanny. The curse, which is inherited in the Ambrosia family, is slowly but surely taking root in them. The sorceress thinks that someday he will need her power because she has an artifact to prove it and which she will send to Dealin. Until then, the girl will take care of her and the child. Eden says that 6 years ago he received a letter from the Countess, and with it an artifact. However, only with the help of this artifact was he able to control the power seething within him. The Duke claims that this is why he became free from the weight of his family for the first time in his life. Mr. Eden, as Claude's father along with Sarah Miller, can resist the lust for power and not die a terrible death. The nanny says, since this is all too difficult for the gentleman, she suggests that 2 hours will be enough. The Duke claims that he cannot refuse this condition, and even more so, this ring, which has restrained his power for 6 years, is becoming weaker. Sarah thinks that perhaps she can save them from the curse that has been passed down from generation to generation in the Ambrosia family. The young lady offers the Duke other conditions instead of reducing the time to 2 hours. However, he will have breakfast with Claude. After all, she heard that he always eats a simple breakfast in his chambers. The Duke tells the girl that she is very knowledgeable, and meanwhile, he thinks that 6 years have passed since Dealin faked her death. However, how can a woman who lived in solitude all the time know so much about his life? A talented lady from the ancient and respected family of Count Millen, she is the most beautiful, kind, and wise lady in high society. Looking at the girl, the Duke thinks that many single aristocrats could probably be interested in her, but he is not very interested in her. The nanny says that while she is with the young master, they will have fun with him. The son and father together agree with the girl. The nanny suggests that since they both agree, she will start from this day when she officially moves there. Suddenly, sounds are heard from the corridor, and a man rushes into the room and suddenly falls as he was aiming for wood chips that were all over the floor. The man asks what he should do if the gentleman suddenly runs away, because the Duke jumped out of the carriage so suddenly, and therefore they were very scared. The captain of the Knights of the Duchy of Ambrosia, Jane Harper, stood up from the floor and apologized for the late greeting to the Countess and hoped that she would forgive his rudeness. The Countess says she understands that he could not behave differently under such circumstances. The captain thanked her for her attention, and meanwhile, he thought that the young gentleman was sitting so calmly in the arms of a stranger. Hertz O asks if this message is important since he guards it well. The captain replies that a detachment of knights is on his guard. However, would any of the knights throw it away, knowing how important it is? Jane is worried because he remained to accompany the carriage with the message, because the butler and the headmaid reprimanded him for not following the master. Meanwhile, the nanny understood why they came running here with the butlers and the maid on their backs. The Duke apologized because he didn't want it to turn out like this. The captain asks because the sound of the explosion was so loud that something important had happened. But looking at the nanny holding the boy in Jane's arms, I understood everything at once. Eden turns to the young lady to ask for forgiveness because a knight is waiting for him and he needs to go. However, he will not go back on his words and will keep his promises to her. Sarah says she really appreciates it. However, if he helps keep her power a secret, she will reduce the agreed-upon time by another hour. The Duke happily replies that he will gladly fulfill her request. As Eden leaves, he calls his captain with him, who is very concerned about his reputation. The young lady noticed that this man, in the end, did not look at Claude even once during all this time. The Duke gave orders to his servants that they should find out what Countess Millen needed and report it to him. Eden forbade the servant to tell anyone anything because he would like to spend no more than an hour in her company. Leaving the house, the Duke asks Harper if he knows Sarah. The captain replies that often his friends dreamily mentioned the name of Lady Millen, who taught etiquette to the late Duchess and Princess. However, she received the title of Countess even before the coming-of-age ceremony. She is so talented. Jane says that the young lady is also a sorceress, and as far as he remembers, no such thing has appeared in the last 40 years. The Duke says that the Countess's secret, which no one in the Empire knows about, must remain a secret in the future because it is necessary in order to save his precious time. The captain claims that she demonstrated her strength in his mansion in front of so many people, and it is quite possible that some kind of rat will ruin everything. Opening the carriage, the knight turns to the bound man and thanks him for being calm. The Duke calls the bound man a rat. Janin suggests to the master that he should be gentler with him since the tied-up person must remain alive until the meeting of the Imperial Council. Eden replies because he has endured so much brutal torture and it would be better to finish off such a pathetic person. The Duke, addressing Jim Wood, says that he will have to pay with pain for betraying his trust. The gentleman continues to say that since he already betrayed him once and became the first prince's mongrel, maybe he will decide to show him mercy and save him. Because, since the principle of salt, they will probably want to teach others a lesson with your help and will brutally kill you. Jim Wood had been a spy for the first prince in the duchy for 10 years, and so he was very happy to learn about the curse of his family. However, after this, he thought that he would live a quiet life full of abundance. The Duke asks why he didn't tell him about this first before whispering his secrets into the first prince's ear. Because he would help Jim add a message for the first prince of his brother's weakness so as not to mislead him so much. Eden says that he will clarify one misunderstanding since the secret of his family will be revealed. He, as the head of the family, will have no other choice. Jane asks the gentleman if he is finished because they need to go to the Imperial Palace and he has prepared everything. The captain thinks that he has seen the Duke's strength many times, but he is still surprised. Suddenly, Jane noticed that the Duke's ring was cracked, and he informed him about it. The artifact began to collapse as soon as its creator arrived at the estate. Surely her power could help Claude. The Countess, going out into the main hall, saw the servants who were waiting for her. Looking at them, the young lady noticed that they were twins. The guy introduced himself as Varon Duane, the butler of the Ambrosia Mansion, and this was his twin sister, headmaid Rhonda Duane. Sarah reflects that although they are ordinary servants, she thinks that they were well-trained because they serve the only duke in the empire. Rhonda, turning to the nanny, "You say that the gentleman wanted to tell her something, and could she spare a minute for them?" The young lady noticed that their appearance perfectly matched how they were described in the novel. Earlier in Claude's room, the nanny asks the young gentleman if he would like her to shorten the time he will spend with his dad by another hour. The boy replies that he does not want to reduce the time, and the nanny again asks why he is so upset. The young master replies that she is making life difficult for Dad. Sarah agrees with the boy and says that this is really so, and that she is very sorry that this happened. The young lady watches the boy clutch the bed and says that he is afraid that the Duke might get into trouble. Claude didn't answer, and Sarah says that he doesn't think like a child anymore. The nanny managed to find out about Claude that he was already learning to read and write in the imperial language, and they also told her that he began to comprehend the basics of etiquette. Sarah thinks that the young master is doing everything to make his father love him. However, even the most heartless Duke will not be able to resist such a sweet and sincere child. The nanny thinks that the Duke can devote more time to the young master. Covering himself with a blanket, The boy hides from the nanny so that she does not see him and says that his dad hates him. Sarah assures Claude that this is not true at all and asks if he isn't glad that he can spend time with his dad. The young master, screaming, tells her not to be mistaken because he still hates her, and Dad is a very busy man. And how can he be glad that she distracts him from work? Nanny says, since she made such a big mistake, she will immediately go to the Duke and ask for his forgiveness, and maybe he can forget her request as if such a conversation never happened. Hearing this, the boy was very surprised and said that he still hates her. The nanny turns to Claude and says that she really likes him because he is very cute. Sarah says that she also has some things to do and will be back today. However, the young master needs to prepare to start taking her seriously. Leaving the room, the nanny, turning to the surprised boy, says that he hates her uselessly. The worried boy thinks that Sarah is a very strange nanny. While talking with the twins, the nanny asks what the Duke asked him to tell her. Rhonda says that she is a close friend of the late Duchess and a countess from an ancient family, and he ordered all the servants to treat her like a duchess. Sarah understood why May managed to whisper the absurdity to Claude. Sarah thinks that the Duke's orders to the servants are easy to misunderstand. And so the Baron's daughter told Claude that the nanny was going to take his mother's place. However, the boy turned out to be smarter than she thought. The young lady thinks that because of the Duke everything went wrong for her, she will make his work a little harder. However, the servants expected May to be kicked out, but they were not sure that they would be able to handle the extra work after she was fired. Since May, like Claude, are characters appearing only in the novel, this novel was not written, and therefore Sarah wants to find out why May was with Claude until the end, because therefore she will be able to understand how the novel can be changed. The young lady asks a question about what the Duke told her to convey. Varen at this time gives her a package, which she opens, and says that this is a manifestation of the power of the genus Ambrosia. The servants agree with Sarah and say that they knew she was aware. The young lady says that this is the Duke's curse for life, dark magic passed down from generation to generation. It is the strength of the ragweed genus that makes ordinary tree branches dry and twisted, a force that steals life energy from everything. However, if you lose control over this force, it will not be saturated with the vital energy of the whole world, and in the end, she will even swallow the life of her owner, and he will die. After Claude was born, the sorceress lived in a tower for 6 years, isolating herself from the world in order to study this dark force. However, if you don't find a way to curb it, not only the Duke, but also Claude will become dangerous. Because it was the introduction of this force that destroyed the Empire. Sarah asks the twins about the fact that the Duke can no longer control the power. Rhonda replies that it started recently and has not reached serious proportions, but it has been going on for a month. The young lady says that she expected this to happen, but did not think it would happen so quickly. And because the ring she sent him 6 years ago was not enough to contain this power. However, if she remembers everything correctly, before the Duke began to lose control a month ago, because this power also began to manifest itself in Claude. However, as it grows, the strength will also increase. The dark magic of the genus Ambrosia is fueled by despair. The absence of a mother is the guilt that grew in the boy because of the words that he killed his mother. Anger because no one gives him their love. However, when the power of this curse encounters such negative emotions as despair, it begins to grow very quickly. Maybe that's why the Duke avoids Claude. Sarah asks the servants if this is the only tree that has suffered during this time. And without hearing an answer, she showed it strange, because these two had not shown a single emotion from the very beginning of the conversation. The main character thinks that this can hardly be expected from the butler and the main maid, who not only carry out the Duke's instructions, but also greet guests. However, they lost all their emotions due to this power. Varan says that he and his sister are fine, and they need to come up with something so that this doesn't happen to anyone else in the duchy. Sarah Millen knows that the Duke did not test her abilities with the help of this branch. She claims that she will give up trying to persuade the Duke to devote even more time. However, she will prove to him that even within the agreed amount of time, the girl will be happy to cooperate with him. The main character used magic to revive a withered branch, and young leaves appeared on it. The twins were surprised because the branch had become the same, and the Duke's powers had affected it. Sarah insists that they do something before they all lose their feelings and emotions. However, if the main character does not save him from this problem, it does not matter how strong a sorceress she is. Duke Ambrosia puts her outside the mansion. The Duke decided to test the young lady with the help of 2 people who had lost their emotions due to his power. The worried lady thinks that if she fails, even her heart will become like stone. Looking at the servants, the sorceress was able to melt their icy hearts, and they bowed before her and said that they would do whatever she wanted, because they will never forget what Sarah did for them. The main character asks if the Duke knows that power can be used in this way. The servant replies that he found out about this through them, and it's good that everything worked out. Sarah orders the carriage to be prepared for her home, and she wouldn't mind a cup of tea while she waits. As a result of 6 years of research, the sorceress found out that there is no magic in the world that could stop this curse. The power of the genus Ambrosia is capable of trying to suck out life energy. The sorceress can save anything from the influence of dark power at the cost of her own life, since she has no other choice. However, to help Claude, it is necessary to rid him of the curse before it takes root in him. Obviously, if a girl does this at the cost of her energy, she will not live long. And so the main character decided not to sacrifice the life of Sarah Miller and not to abuse magic, because the nanny must be with Claude for a long time and do everything possible for his happiness. Or there is one way to do this, and Sarah must draw life energy and magic from Park Hae-young, from her life, from which she was left with a fragile connection. For 6 years, the main character studied how to receive energy from another world, and in the end, she found out that the other one, Park Hae-young, must die. For how long since their souls are connected, some of her wounds are reflected on her. Sarah, sitting at the table, saw a wound that was bleeding. However, this does not cause her much harm. It just takes her a little out of strength. The young lady thinks that if she vomits blood like this a few more times, Park Hae-young will finally die. She understands that this is not very good, because Sarah lives 2 lives at the same time, and she previously perceived this as a curse. The main character felt like she was not free, as she tried her best to hide her abilities while still trying to live a normal life. However, she would be lying if she said that she didn't feel relieved when she decided to give up Park Hae-young's life. Dylan and Kvigel met each other a long time ago, and maybe they are happy. Sarah is wondering if her friend remembers the child she left in the duchy, and she wonders if she regrets her decision. Sarah thinks that no matter what kind of person she is, or what she has been through, she will always be a dear friend to her, and that will not change. Suddenly, voices are heard as someone asks the teacher to return because the time has not come yet. And again they ask why she is doing this, because she said that it was dangerous. However, she won't stand it. Sarah says what a strange reaction these guys have, as if she is dying from a symptom of anemia. She wonders if she worries too much about the students of the Magic Tower. Since there are still not enough assistants to study the soul, she told the students her secret. However, since then, they have constantly had attacks of overprotection towards her. Anyone who decides to reveal Sarah's secret to anyone will lose their soul and magical power. So she told them everything without hesitation, because that's why she left the tower without saying a word and doesn't want to involve her students in this anymore. The sorceress lived in a tower, hiding her face and voice, so they don't even know who their teacher was. From this moment, the main character wants to find out who her teacher was, because it is customary to ask permission for this, and therefore she leaves them this message, which says, "See you later." The lady decides that it is better to part with the students now, although she is very sorry. Seeing the girl who has packed all her luggage, the servant of Count Millen's mansion asks if she has to move there since she can just go there every morning. The main character claims that she is not leaving there forever and that they should not worry. The countess's servant looks very sad. However, they were offended that an heiress of this kind became an ordinary nanny. After all, the emperor himself singled out this family. Meanwhile, the young master is looking for the main girl, and one of the servants tells him that she made a mistake and now must serve her sentence. However, the gentleman should not think about this. Claude thinks that besides May, only Rhonda and Varen love him, and therefore he should not bother them. However, the father also values them very much. The young master says that if he finds out where May is, he will definitely save her. Suddenly, the nanny came up to Claude and greeted him. Seeing her, the boy immediately hid behind the maid, who explained to the young lady that the gentleman was very shy. The nanny asks why the gentleman is so upset, and in response hears the question why she always thinks like that. The main character continues to ask, because he thinks that she will not consider the gentleman cute, even if he is upset. Sarah, taking the boy in her arms, says that the gentleman should play with her while her things are carried. At this time, the boy screams for her to let him go and asks the question why he should play with her. The nanny tells the boy that she wants to play with him. However, if the gentleman does not want to play, then let him say what he likes to do in his free time. Concerned, the boy replies that he doesn't play because no one likes to play with him. The main character, hugging Claude, assures him that this is not at all true, and in fact, everyone loves the young master very much. The boy looks at the nanny in surprise and wants to believe that she is telling the truth. The young master's friend runs away, and Sarah asks him to wait for her. The boy, running away, screams that the nanny knows nothing at all. The excited main character says that she knows everything in the world, explaining that she is a great sorceress. Because she owns this title, and therefore she assures him that he is a very wonderful person and everyone loves him. Sarah understands that the boy is simply scared, and no matter how strong a person is, no matter how strong he is, he will be afraid. Afraid means to lose something, and it is a very difficult word. However, not everyone understands them. But only once does the boy say that he will believe Sarah. The young master invites the nanny to play. The interested girl asks what they will play, and the boy tells her that the nanny will decide. The main character understands that this is exactly the bravest heart that, even after the deepest wounds, opens up to people again. The nanny thinks with pleasure that she needs to try and raise Claude to be a good person, to repay him for his love, which is more magical than any magic. However, despite the fact that the friend of the door raised a lot of noise in the Duke's mansion, not even the slightest rumor spread to the rest of the empire. For the first time in many decades, a sorceress has appeared in the empire who cannot believe that these events did not cause a stir. However, simply by selling information about this, you could ensure a comfortable old age. Sarah realizes that the Duke's servants are very loyal to him, but perhaps there are other reasons why the information did not leak out. Sitting at the table, the young master learns how to properly cut meat. The nanny, looking at him, says that he is doing a very good job. Claude asks the nanny to look and check him again. The young lady replies that she has checked on him 5 times already, because the boy had been practicing since the morning and the nanny was sleeping at that time. Claude excitedly says that he will be worried because this will be his first time eating with his dad. Sarah calms the boy down. You tell him not to worry because she will be with him. The nanny noticed that the correctness of his movements was amazing, but because of his excitement, the boy could make a mistake. The young lady asks the boy if he would like to make a bet with her. This question interested the boy, and the nanny continued to say that today the menu will be freshly baked bread and stewed beef, and there will also be a salad with salmon. And she learned all about this from the cooks. Sarah states that dishes are usually served in a certain order. However, because the Duke is very busy, he has served all the dishes at the same time and eats them in no particular order. The young master says that he will have to remember the order of the dishes. The nanny asks him if he wants to try to guess what dish Dad will eat first, and it will be bread, stew, or salad. Claude says that the first course will be bread, and at this time the nanny asks why he thinks so. The young master claims that the cook always serves bread first, and therefore he will eat the bread first. Sarah talks about how the Duke eats the salad first, and since this is a bet, there should be a prize for winning. However, if the boy wins, she will make sure that the Duke praises him today. The young master happily asks if this is true, and the nanny replies that she never lies. Arriving in the dining room, the young master saw his chair, on which stood a pillow, and he asks in surprise what the nanny has prepared. The fair-haired boy says that he has long been afraid of this large dining room because his chair is very hard and it hurts him to sit on it. The young master looked at the nanny and thought that she always smiled like when she looked at him, and yet he had never met such people before. Entering the dining room, Mr. Eden, turning to the nanny, says that she arrived before him. Sarah replies that she must always be punctual when she is around the young master. Nyanya, turning to the young boy, says that he wished the Duke good morning. Dad, despite his son, says that the morning is really good. Mr. Count invited Countess Millen to sit down, but she refused because she is the nanny of Mr. Claude Ambrosia, and she would not want to be perceived as anything more than just a nanny. The Count thinks that it was his imagination, but it looks like Sarah is expecting something from him. The young master looks at Dad and always thinks that he will eat the bread or salad first. The first dish that the Count began to eat was salad, and when he saw this, the boy became very excited because he had lost the bet. After all, he wanted his dad to praise him. The young master thinks that after his dad wished him good morning, he didn't even look at him anymore. The blonde boy thinks that his dad probably hates him, and he didn't deliberately push the glass, which fell to the floor and broke into pieces. At that time, the Duke thought that Claude had turned very pale, but still, the gentleman is glad that the boy was not injured. Sarah sits next to the young master and says that she also wants to have breakfast. The Count says that she said that servants are forbidden by the rules of etiquette to eat with the masters at the same table. The main character says that etiquette is not a set of rules that were there from the very beginning. The young lady argues that the accepted patterns of people's behavior at some point become rules, and which later became known as etiquette. However, if she always has breakfast with them, then this will also become a rule. Sarah says even if that's not the case, she hopes they'll allow a little change in etiquette. The Duke asks if all wizards can handle words as gracefully as she does, the Countess. The young lady replies that there is usually not a sound heard in the wizard's tower except for explosions in the laboratories. Eden says with interest that he would like to hear this. The main character says that the Duke's tastes are very specific, and since he wants, she can cause an explosion right here. The young master thinks that the nanny shouldn't be afraid of Dad. The Duke claims that he is forced to reject her proposal because he didn't want another door to be removed from his precious mansion. The nanny looked attentively at the Duke and thought that perhaps he was worried about Claude even more than she thought. Eden asks the nanny why she likes Claude. The main character replies that the young master is so wonderful and sweet. Sarah, sitting closer to the boy, says that she praised him in front of the Duke because he is a great fellow and should smile. The Duke says that he is very grateful that the sorceress countess agreed to raise Claude. And since she treats Claude even better than just her friend's son, it's obvious that she really likes him. Eden thinks that if he were asked if he was a good father for Claude, he would not be able to answer this question. However, he will have nothing to say when Dylan returns and slaps him for not taking good care of his son. The gentleman looked at the boy and thought that his son had never been so cheerful around him. The Duke is concerned that his son should beware of false affection. And at this time, the maid reports that the carriage is waiting for him. Eden says that it's time for him to go, and then the nanny points out that he didn't even drink tea. The Duke says that he usually has breakfast in the carriage, and therefore ate here thanks to her request. Looking at the excited boy, Sarah invites him to accompany the Duke. The main character claims that if they see Dad off, it will give the Duke strength, and yet he will not look lonely when he goes to work. Approaching the carriage, the Duke says that they should not have organized such a pompous farewell. Sarah says that this is not bad because it is immediately clear that people actually live in this mansion. Eden thought that he was a little embarrassed, but he didn't mind if his son was happy. The boy is excited, and he says that this is the first time he will see his father off. The nanny, coming closer to the Duke, claims that he needs to straighten his tie, and the man responds by saying that it is better for her not to come so close to him, because he doesn't want to harm Hay over such a small thing. However, the Count does not want Countess Miller to help him more than necessary, because there is no selfless virtue, and he doesn't want to be in even more debt to her. Aiden is concerned that it is necessary to suppress the curse of his family and Claude, and he will not allow his son to experience the same pain as him. And that's all he needs from her. The Duke thinks he doesn't know what it will cost Sarah, and so he will have to refuse her help. The nanny asks the gentleman how much he trusts her abilities. The man replies that thanks to the ring that helped him for so many years, he trusts her and expects a lot from her. Sarah claims that maybe she can help him even more since that is what he expected from her, because the power of blessing may not be enough. The genus Ambrosia can have everything on this earth. Eden remembers what his father told him about not giving up this power and accepting it. However, if he does not even have this power, then there will be nothing left. Because if he wants to get something, then he needs to do something for it. Arriving in the room to his sleeping son, the father touched his head and said that the force in Claude was becoming too powerful. Since the boy instinctively rejects her, his strength responds to his father. However, should you be on guard, Claude could become an even bigger monster than his father. Sarah questions the Duke about the possibility that he thinks her powers will harm him. However, it may be because this force yearns to absorb something more powerful. Then she will come closer once again to assess the level of power within him. The Duke asks the nanny if she is afraid, and he feels powerful magic inside her. The voice says to come, and they will swallow this power and make it theirs. Eden feels this curse screaming inside him. The main character claims that she is not afraid of him and the strength of his family within him, no matter how strong she is. And let the Duke not be afraid that he might harm her. The nanny says that she can protect his son and let the Duke trust her. The main character looks at the twins and asks Eden if he noticed the miracle she created. Despite the fact that it sounds funny, he realized that a lady named Sarah Millen was very suitable for the dukedom. And a few minutes later, the nanny says let him see that he didn't hurt her. However, she was even able to subdue his ring. The Duke replied that he could see it, and he felt as if he had just been rescued. But for any salvation there is a price. It may seem that this was not difficult for the nanny, but curbing this power will not be easy. However, even now Sarah does not show it, but she will become a real salvation for the genus Ambrosia. Adjusting the tie around the Duke's neck, the main character says that there is no hostility, just ordinary favor. Mr. Duke thinks that there must be another reason why she is doing this, and he will have to find out for himself. However, he thinks that there is no need to doubt her kindness towards them. Eden noticed that she was so close, and he thought that Sarah was so small with just the touch of his hand. Mr. Duke thought that in any case, if her goal is something that is in the mansion, then she will be able to get it. However, it is better for her to rely on the conditions under which she can help them than on anxiety and a feeling of uncertainty. The nanny asks the boy if he wants to say goodbye to his dad. Looking at Dad, the young master says that he is very upset now. However, he does not understand what kind of problem arose so suddenly. Since Sarah was vomiting blood yesterday, now it took a lot of effort to concentrate her magical power. However, she tried very hard to restore the magical seal on his ring, because such efforts on the part of the main character cannot go unnoticed. Sarah wanted to give Claude a normal everyday life, teach him how to say good morning and say goodbye to people and see them off, and also to meet them when they return. The main character wanted to teach the young gentleman to live the way any ordinary family lives. Addressing the boy, the nanny suggests that if he says goodbye to the Duke, then he can consider that he won the bet. Hearing about this, Claude ran closer to Dad and wished him a good trip. Eden said he would be back soon and thanked his son for seeing him off. The young master happily asks the nanny if she heard what his father told him. Sarah replies since he saw the Duke off, he thanked him. The nanny suggests to Claude that they should go back inside since it is still morning and the weather is quite fresh. Sarah offered the boy an envelope, and he was very interested in it. The nanny says that this is the promised prize for winning the bet and let him open it. However, it turned out to be a pass to his dad's imperial palace. The boy screams in surprise why the nanny had this envelope, because without it, it is impossible to get into the palace. The main character explains to Claude that she stole it under the pretext that she was trying to straighten her father's tie, and all thanks to her magic, but don't let him be proud of it. However, the nanny suggests to the boy that since Hertz has not encountered this trouble, they can go and personally give him the pass. The young master screams that he hates the nanny, and she, hearing this, just giggles. May works hard and says that all her suffering is because of this witch. Since she had been spying on the young master, this was the first time she had seen him smile like that. The Baron's daughter did not understand why the boy who killed his mother at birth looked so cute. Lost in her thoughts, May suddenly heard Sarah asking her why she hates Mr. Claude so much. The main character saw how the girl was spying on Claude and behind the columns, and he invites her not to try to do something stupid and let her answer her questions. May agrees that she hates the boy, because she is disgusted that he bathes in love and whines as if no one loves him. She insists that someone who killed his own mother does not deserve so much love, just like her. The girl says that she always had to survive. She often hid because she was afraid that her father would kill her if she caught his eye. The brothers had to be hers, and no family member was allowed to give her food. May worriedly says that she is the one who killed her own mother during childbirth, and she could never hope for such luxury as love. Claude must realize how lucky he is to even have hope for this. The nanny asks the girl whether she thinks he is lucky. Hearing this, the girl screams that at least he didn't have to beg not to finish him off like she had to do. Sarah remembers that because of the novel she wrote, this particular boy could become like this. The nanny asks the girl why she stayed next to the boy, even when the power inside him awakened. May replies that the headmaid told her about it. However, everyone was afraid to approach the boy because of his curse, but she stayed with Claude. The main character remembers that at the Flowers of Darkness, the girl stayed next to Claude, hoping that this would later play into her hands. Sarah asks the girl if she wasn't scared, because she could be wrong. May replies that he, like her, thinks that everyone around them hates them, and her hatred has passed because the girl realized that the boy is just like her. The nanny claims that Maine kept a close eye on him and whispered all sorts of nasty things to him. However, the main character asks the girl why she began to hate Claude again. The girl, all in tears, replies that this happened because she appeared as a countess. The girl saw her after she lifted the curse and saw Sarah vomiting blood. May is excited, looking at the nanny, and says that this curse has a negative effect on the countess, and since she will hold back Claude's power in this way, something could happen to her, and she could die. The Baron's daughter looks at Sarah worriedly and asks what she will do and whether she will kill her, because she can see that the lady hates her, and she's crazy about Claude because he's such a cutie. The girl speaks worriedly about the fact that she doesn't understand why Claude got such a mentor, and this could be because of his high status or because he is small and cute. But still, May misses that the Countess is aiming for a place next to the Duke. The nanny tells the girl to come to her senses and not think that she and Claude are the same. May agrees with the Countess and says that she is right. After all, she is the daughter of a petty baron, and Monsieur Claude is the son of the noble Duke Ambrosia. Suddenly, Sarah heard Claude calling her, and he was ready to go. The boy, screaming, says that if the nanny doesn't hurry up, he will go without her. The main character, addressing the girl, tells her not to blame her father for her mistakes. Holding the girl's hands, Sarah tells her to stop thinking about the fact that she killed her mother, because the girl does not want to discredit the love of her mother, who protected her to the very end. Having arrived at the emperor's palace, they were met near the gate by a guard. The boy says that his father left a pass to the palace and he wants to give it to him. The guard asked if his father was Adden Ambrosia, and he, thinking he understood why you were the one who was at the post before him, was in tears. And this means that the Duke of Ambrosia entered the palace without a pass. The soldier says that it is okay for the Duke to enter the palace without a pass, and thinks about how he could get himself involved in such a thing, because he considers himself not a guard, but a cowardly rabbit. The main character says that she has long heard that the palace guards have no equal in strength and loyalty. However, this will not stop him from helping them do such a small business. Sarah tells the guard to allow her and young Mr. Ambrosius to enter the palace using this pass, and then the Duke's pass will arrive safely from its owner. The guard thought about what he heard that this lady went into seclusion 6 years ago, and he says that he will open the gate for her. Entering the inner palace of the emperor, the boy looks at its beauty with great pleasure. The boy ran ahead, and the nanny asks him not to walk so fast because she can't keep up with him. The young master says that he really likes it here and would like to take his dad here every day. The boy says that, probably, only he managed to get into the palace at such a young age, even as the son of an aristocrat. Children of aristocrats are prohibited from entering the palace unless accompanied by their parents until they come of age. It was unspoken in high society that the more an aristocrat's child visited the palace before the coming-of-age ceremony, the more love and affection the parents had for them. However, the previous Duke Ambrosia became famous for the fact that he never took his children to the imperial palace. Therefore, apparently, Aiden did not plan to do this. However, this is a very important issue among the children of aristocrats. The nanny asks the boy if he would like to first inspect the rose garden near another part of the palace, where the Duke is now. Hearing this, the boy asks whether it is true that there are 5 gardens in the palace. Sarah says that the rose garden is the emperor's garden, but there is also a tulip garden, which the empress personally looked after, and there are 3 more gardens for each of the princes, making a total of 5. And the young master will definitely visit them next time with the Duke. When the boy heard this, he was very happy, and the nanny reminded him that once a week he would play with the Duke. If Mr. Claude wants, he can take this time to the palace anyway. The boy happily says that now he has something to say to other guys who were not friends with him, because his dad supposedly doesn't love him. The movement of magic throughout her body. The boy, running away from her, says that first he needs to go to his dad. Suddenly, all the young master's plans were changed by a man who stood in his way. The nanny quickly ran up to the boy and covered him with her arms. At this time, Jane came to Mr. Ambrosia and told him that the young master and the countess had come to the imperial palace, because they were going to explore the rose garden and then go to it. However, the nanny and the young master encountered the first prince. The prince, turning to Sarah, says that he had long wanted to see this precious face, but it was hidden from him. The man says that he is finally glad that they met again. The prince orders Countess Millen to raise her head, and the young lady at this time says that she welcomes the first prince, who is the pride of the empire. Caesar de Cromwell says he is very glad to see her after 6 years. Caesar, the emperor's favorite son, is the one he hates the most, because at his age he should already be sitting on the throne. However, due to the fact that my father made him my heir, he hated him and began to lose his mind. He soon became a disgrace to the Cromwell Empire. The prince asks Sarah if she likes being a countess. The main character replies that it is difficult for her to express all the joy she feels after becoming the head of the family. However, she hopes that His Highness will experience this feeling someday. Having heard about this, Caesar became very angry and screamed how dare she mention the throne in front of him. because he could finish her off right now. Sarah calmly replies that it's not funny because he's weak. According to the plot of The Flower of Darkness, around this moment, the first prince must finally lose the trust of the emperor. The reason for this is an inferiority complex from the fact that Caesar will never be able to please the emperor, and therefore he went crazy. The young master is very worried and thinks that all this is happening because of him. Because it happened to Mom and Nanny, because he was nearby. The boy thinks that he should not have been born. The nanny tells the boy to calm down, because thanks to magic, only he can listen to her voice. Sarah calms the boy down and tells him not to worry. In any case, she will win. The prince, addressing the main character, says that she is behaving so stupidly, and at the same time she is smiling. He asks how much longer Sarah plans to mock him, regardless of him. Kozer screams that he will tear this boy, whom she values so much, into pieces. The nanny thinks he's crazy, but she won't allow it. Although she's overdone it lately, she still has the strength. Suddenly, the Duke of Ambrosia, using his magic, broke the prince's sword, thereby preventing him from hurting Sarah. Kozer saw his broken ball and began to laugh hard, and at this time he said that he found it very funny and asked how the Duke dared to stop a member of the imperial family. Aiden thinks that he should not have used his power, especially in front of the first prince, who wanted to reveal the secret of his family. Because the spy who was recently caught in the estate was also sent by the first prince. The Duke muses that if he moves against the first prince now, the other two will join forces to take over the duchy. However, if their family gets involved in this dirty fight for the throne, then it will only be a matter of time before their curse is revealed. However, Aiden Ambrosia couldn't just stand by silently, and with the help of magic, he knocked down the first prince. Behind his nobility, Mr. Eden Ambrosia hid his dirty power. Seeing all this, the young master thought that the father was a monster, and his son was one too, since he killed his mother when she gave birth to him. The Duke, turning to the first prince, says that since he opens his filthy mouth, he will not leave him alive. Eden says that there is no one here except them, and if His Highness suddenly disappears without a trace, no one will even know about it. The main character thinks that the situation itself is dangerous, and the Duke seems to have lost his mind because of this. Sarah says that without the ring, it will be more difficult for him to control the power, and so if he doesn't stop right now, the power may break out of him again. The Countess warns Eden that if he does not calm down, it will be difficult to deal with the consequences of his actions. However, this will also have a bad effect on Claude's emotional education. Kozer smiles again and asks the Duke that he is very interested in why Sarah Millen is looking after his puppy, and he thinks that maybe his son has the power of this curse. The prince, turning to Sarah, tells her that she cannot save this monster who killed her friend. The young master was very surprised because he did not know that the nanny was his mother's friend. Eden asks the prince if he has not yet come to his senses. Kozer, threatening, says that let him just try, because he used his power with such a proud look. However, the imperial knights, who stand at every corner of the palace for sure, did not ignore this, and they will be here soon. The Duke, not seeing anyone, says that they came faster than he expected, and from the voices it is clear that there are several of them, and at this rate they might find out that he is under a curse. The prince has completely lost his mind and begins to cry out that no one has come. He laughs and says to look, and it was Duke Ambrosia who did this to him. Kozer, lying on the ground, screams about how he dared to insult a member of the imperial family in such a way. He calls the knights to quickly split the Duke's skull and make him pay for betraying the empire. Suddenly, the prince saw that instead of knights, courtiers and aristocrats had gathered around him, and he doesn't understand how they ended up here, because after his fall, even the place where he was bruised doesn't hurt. The courtiers do not understand that this happened here, but the wound on the lady's neck interested them because it looked like a cut from a sword blade. Suddenly, Jane says that they all guessed correctly because the first prince delivered the sword to the child, and so the knight had no other choice but to bring them all here. Sarah tells the Duke that Sir Jane is much smarter than she thought. The prince, justifying himself, cries out that the Duke threatened him and almost strangled him, and let them look at the marks on his neck. The courtiers looked at Kozer and said that they could not see anything because his neck was clean. One of the ladies says that she heard that the first prince never touched aristocrats, but apparently this time he finally succeeded. Another aristocrat says that last time the prince beat his servant right in front of the emperor. Eden thinks that they have sorted out this problem, and he says that this is precisely why the imperial knights just stand there and cannot help the first prince. The princes offer the prince to take him inside because they think that he should not stay there. Kozer, crying out, says that the imperial knights must obey the orders of the emperor's family members, and he asks them the question, how dare they accuse him if there were no witnesses and no evidence either? Suddenly the emperor interrupts all this noise and says that's enough, because how can a prince disgrace himself like that in front of his subjects? The emperor orders the first prince to go to the throne room immediately. Kylos de Cromwell tells his son that he recently told him to take a vacation and get his head together. But then news reaches him that he caused a scene in the garden. The emperor turns to Duke Ambrosius and says that he will discuss this with him later, but for now he should return to his place. Suddenly the nanny felt bad because she had lost a lot of red liquid. At this time, Jane immediately ordered a carriage to be prepared for the Duke. Eden, worry that Sarah is very weak and they urgently need to return to the mansion. The first prince, making excuses to the emperor, asks him to listen to him. Because it's unfair, Duke Ambrosia dared to attack him, and he doesn't know how it happened, but all the wounds on his body disappeared. Kozer, screaming, says that he saw everything with his own eyes because the Duke used the dirty power of his curse, and that is why his servant became crazy. The prince admits that he sent his servant to find out something about the Duke's son. However, because of his damn tricks, he got into such a mess. Trump cries out that the Duke dared to insult a member of the imperial family. The emperor tells his son to shut up, and he asks him what guided him when he tried to get close to this child. However, not only did he fail, he also disgraced himself in front of the courtiers and aristocrats. The emperor says that his son is an idiot and that he had high hopes for him in vain, since his mistake could make their enemies not only Duke Ambrosia, but also the sorceress who appeared in the empire for the first time in many years. Kailash de Cromwell, Emperor of the Empire, I suggest to my son that if he wants to regret his action a little, he must find a way to turn this incident into their favor. However, if they become their enemies, then he will no longer be able to easily convince them. Father says if Khazar can't get that information this time, then it's easier to destroy them before they block all his paths to the throne. However, he does not have to tell the whole truth. He just needs to create a little misunderstanding, and giving cause for alarm can lead people to panic. Hearing this, the first prince says that now his power reminds him more of black magic, which is prohibited on the continent because it cannot be anything else. The emperor claims that in any case, this duke was difficult to keep on a leash, and if he can force him to use this power in front of the crowd, then it will only be a matter of time before he loses. Kylos de Cromwell argues that when this happens, even the arrogant sorceress who chose the duke's side, he will be able to force her to act for the benefit of the first prince and the entire empire. Kaysar is happy to confidently say that he will prove to the whole world that he has everything to become an emperor. The young master, sitting next to the nanny who lies and does not stir, thinks that this all happened because of him, because he was a little happy, and that is why he brings misfortune. The boy thinks because everyone around him is suffering, and the nanny will also die because of him, just like Mom. Suddenly, the thoughts of the young master emperor were torn by the words of the nanny, who asked him why he was so sad. The main character tells the boy that it is completely unbecoming for him to be sad.